Yes, we're doing it again. Apparently, Mr. Renegadecow believes that despite the fact that we've already seen, A, that BB residue adheres better, and B, that if you work on a lot of people's guns, you'll discover that the ones who jam due to failure to clean, it's due to plastic buildup, styrene, plastic, bio-BB, what have you, buildup. And this happens more with BBs with additives or some bio-BBs than it does with the straight low-mass styrene BBs. Despite all this, he's insistent that dirt is the primary mechanism of dirtying, at least in his guns, because apparently he has open chambers and hand loads. So he did a test where he basically dumped the contents of a Roomba, which I believe is a type of vacuum cleaner, onto substrate and then tapped it to see which side adhered more. Now, I have few issues with this. One of them is nobody knows what the contents of Roomba is. It's non-specific, so it's not repeatable, ergo it's not falsifiable, so it's not scientific. And two, barrels aren't cleaned naturally in use by tapping. They're actually cleaned because BBs slide past them. We've seen this from barrel wear tests. You can actually pull open a barrel and see the scratch patterns in it and see that the BBs are in fact sliding and rolling. So scratches don't run the full length. A scratch will appear, go for a length, and then disappear as other ones pick up. Okay, I don't want to get into an argument about barrel mechanics. If you don't believe it, test it yourself or argue about it with somebody else. I've had that argument, and it's been demonstrated. So, a test. So there's a certain sliding pattern. Now, I may have to replicate the wiping off pattern with a paper towel, but I did fabricate this device in the hopes that I'd be able to test wiping. This is BioShot 0.2s, just what I have on the bench from the last test, and they're just glued to this rod, and the glue does not protrude above the top, so we're not wiping with the glue. Okay, I'm just going to clamp that there, keep it clean. And for a substrate, I wanted something that's sticky, extremely small particle, and it's replicable, that somebody could get anywhere. So we have a little bit of chromium oxide here, which I'm going to take and put on and sort of pat down into the areas, and we'll see how that bonds. It's a relatively sticky powder. As you can see, it sticks to itself and everything else. And it's small, so you're not going to argue that, well, it was too big a particulate, so it was unable to get itself stuck in the smaller fissures in the metal, what have you. So, mark out the area. Something like that. And we did go back to methylated spirits, and we did that solely because if you're making the solvent argument, it should be true of all solvents because it's the same mechanism. They're relatively related, and because that's what I have down in my shop, I don't keep isopropanol down here, typically, because I use that on cuts and scrapes and such. While we're at it, we'll have an interesting anecdote to see if third time holds true that that the surface seems to pick up more dirt. The paper towel seems to pick up more dirt if you clean with silicone. So this will be a little interesting anecdote. Okay, that's how that goes. Let's try. You don't really need this whole thing for the silicone. As we can see, I'm not like factory team 30 weight shock fluid or whatever it is, team associated. I'm not endorsing this fluid. I'm just sort of labeling it here. In case somebody is trying to replicate this. It's not great. It's not horrible. It's not anything. It's sort of the cheap silicone that I use for whatever. It's nice in that it doesn't contain other crap. So it just kind of works. It's perfectly plastic safe, unlike, for example, the CRC spray stuff. I should have brought some of that stuff down to test too. But, okay, so as we can see, again, it seems to really come out much dirtier first pad. So that's third time on that. Maybe that does mean something. First time I said, well, this is not necessarily significant. Second time I said it's the plural of anecdote data. And, and here we are. Okay, so, cleaned. I don't know. I don't know if that's conclusive that silicone cleans better, but it's certainly suggestive now that it's happened 3 times. Okay, chromium oxide. I'm going to sort of tap a little bit of this on and spread it around with the tool and kind of press it in so we can sort of see. There's some for one. There's some for the other. And you can see it is relatively sticky stuff. Okay, just sort of patting this in. Oh, we need a control, right. Well, there's a little bit on the end of this. We'll just pat some of this onto the bare surface for whatever that's worth. Silicone area. Does seem to stick better there, doesn't it now? Okay. Sure we're not fudging anything. Okay. So, toss that. Tool. We'll do this first, since in theory there should be nothing on the base. Okay. Now we'll do the silicone. Seems to be slightly more smearing. And control. More yet. Okay, this is not really showing anything very clearly. Seems like there's slightly more adhesion on here than on here, but there seems to be residue marks on all 3. So let's wipe it off and see what's stuck. Hopefully this methodology will not get fire for whatever, but... Okay, some visible longitudinal marks. I guess the pattern that I just established inadvertently is 2 wipes. 1, 2. Okay, now let's try this. I'm seeing maybe a slight difference here. Ooh, I'm seeing a difference there. Okay. Well, those are not terribly useful, but at least interesting results. So, let's see how well this shows up on camera. Oh, it's much more apparent if you angle it. So if you angle it over here, we can see that the most is clearly on the control, the unclean surface. We can see that residue is still existing over here, but that there is more residue on here than there is on here. So if you are getting dirt particulate in, at least initially, it seems likely that this will be best. Now let's try more wipes. Okay. Okay, and then this really feels like it requires a lot more force. This one here, the control. Okay, what are we seeing? We're seeing slightly more chromium oxide in the center of this one than on here, and the most is still here on the control. So you have a slight advantage in chromium oxide, and thus implied fine dirt particulate adhesion if if you clean with silicones. But still visible on both of these, and I don't know how well the camera is picking it up. Still visible on all of them, more than the chromium oxide, the white BB residues from the tool. What did I do with the tool? Must have tossed it. There it is. Right. So just to demonstrate this again. So people can see. That's the long and short. That's interesting. Look at that. What if you mix the dirt with BB residue? So we have dirty BBs now, and we're just wiping them in. Because if you think about it, really, most logical would be any dirt you have would be wiped in with the ammo you're shooting. So really, what does that come out like? Okay, so here's the test now. Silicone has slightly more chromium oxide in this area, but less overall BB residue. About the same, roughly. Chromium oxide as this. This again, I mean, it's irrelevant, but it's interesting to note it has more. So let's wipe it down and see how that goes. Okay, some came off. I'm just gonna fold this clean side, right? How many strokes did I use? 3? And new one. Okay, so let's see what we have. Well, now what's interesting we have here is that if we're looking at just chromium oxide, this has more, but this has more that's stuck with the plastic, or whatever this bio shit is made out of. That's an interesting observation. So it's gotten mixed up. It's very visible because it's green, right? So it's gotten mixed up with the BB crap, and it's all in there. So this has more just straight. Now, granted, the wipe area is up here, and perhaps I'm being unfair in that I'm looking at stuff which is over here, which has not been as wiped. But there you go. I guess I would give slight advantage to just dirt. No other mechanisms to this. But I don't know. I maintain that we've observed that in real barrels that BB residue is the primary contaminating factor, and B, that even at its worst, the amount of chromium oxide that's stuck to all this is nothing compared to the level of adhesion that that is seen by these BBs. So there you go. If you're planning on shooting dirt, I guess Renegadecow is right. If you're shooting a dirt gun, then you should not clean with silicone. But if you're using BBs, other tests stand. So there you go. I'm sure somebody's going to flame me for saying, "Oh, I drew my own conclusion from that." You can draw your own conclusions from seeing this. You can see the levels difference, I hope. Here you can see distinct lines in here, green and white. Here. We don't necessarily have the evenest touch, because not all these BBs will touch at the same time. And over here we can see little streak, green streak there. And over here we can see the strongest streaks of green are in here and right over here. So yeah, draw your own conclusions. You don't need me to feed them to you. Think I'm full of shit, let me know in the description or whatever. But there you have it, guys. That's the result of that test. I stand by my my previous statements on silicone being better. My personal experience bears this out, and I still believe that these experiments bear this out because, again, the the residue BB mix of adhesion is still worse on this. But yes, if you have just a dirt substance, it will stick to the silicone surface better, slightly, than this. So that's the conclusion that I'm drawing from this. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this series of videos wasn't too shit.